kings wore crowns. Their names fill textbooks. Their portraits hang in galleries and adorn coins.
We must be cautious. The walls have ears.
Agreed. Too much is at stake. The crown suits you. But power is a heavy burden to bear alone.
But look closer, and the truth becomes clear. Real power often hid not in throne rooms, but behind the heavy curtains of bedchambers. The shadows beside them, women, mistresses, favorites, could reshape not just the fate of the man on the throne, but the destiny of entire nations. Their power was unofficial, unwritten in law, yet it proved decisive. Today, the stories of those whose influence was rarely acknowledged openly, yet who toppled and elevated ministers, ignited wars, and quelled revolutions. And at the climax, the darkest, most unsettling tale, a favorite accused of witchcraft. Ministers lowered their eyes at her approach, and rumors of secret rituals spread faster than royal decrees. The question remains, was this politics or sorcery? The Ottoman Empire, harem as command center. In 16th century Istanbul, magnificent palaces rose beneath soaring domes, and the morning call to prayer echoed through the streets. Within the harem of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, where dozens of women competed for his attention, one woman determined the empire's fate, Hurrem Sultan, known as Roxolana. She began as a slave, a Ukrainian captive brought to the slave market. By all conventions, she should have vanished among the crowd of concubines. Yet her intelligence, charisma, and ability to wield influence made her the empire's most powerful woman. Her authority was such that she not only held the Sultan's attention, but eliminated rivals, shattered centuries-old palace traditions, and transformed the very structure of the harem. Roxolana converted it from a symbol of pleasure into a political nerve center where intrigue unfolded, decisions were made, and appointments determined. She achieved the unprecedented. Her son became Sultan. Hurrem remains in history as the woman who transformed the Ottoman Empire from within. France, Madame de Pompadour. Louis XV entered history as a monarch who cherished pleasure as much as power. Yet examining his court reveals a different truth. He was often not master of his own decisions. His favorite, the celebrated Madame de Pompadour, controlled not only the royal heart, but all of France, born outside noble circles, daughter of a bourgeois family. This very origin made her exceptional. She possessed a brilliant mind, understood the art of seduction, and demonstrated even greater skill in sensing political currents. As European powers competed for dominance, Madame de Pompadour pushed Louis toward alliance with Austria, reshaping the continental balance of power. French ministers trembled. Her word determined whether a courtier received favor or exile. Records show philosophers sought her counsel, and her patronage enabled Diderot's Encyclopédie to see publication. What appears today as cultural achievement happened because of a woman official history, merely called First Lady of the Court. To outsiders, she seemed merely a mistress, an ornament at balls. But within palace walls, everyone understood. Without her approval, the king's signature meant nothing. France, Madame de Montespan. Under Louis XIV, an even darker story unfolded. Madame de Montespan dazzled at balls with jewels and wit. She was considered Versailles' most brilliant beauty. Yet behind closed doors, different conversations circulated. She faced accusations of blood rituals, of consulting alchemists and poisoners. Her name became linked to the affair of the poisons. one of the era's most extensive investigations. France reeled. The king's mistress stood suspected of employing witches. The paradox: simultaneously, this woman decided which taxes to impose and which wars to wage. Ministers feared her more than the king's stern commands. Europe's mightiest monarchy depended on a woman whom courtiers whispered was a witch. Consider the scope. A nation's fate decided in a bedchamber, where the council of ministers counted for nothing, and a mistress's whispered word proved decisive. Russia, Catherine's ascent. In Russia, favorites could transform into empresses. Catherine I's example reveals how thin the line between mistress and ruler could be. Her path began not in a palace, but in servitude. No noble blood, no distinguished name. Yet fate placed her beside Peter I, and where aristocrats faltered, her loyalty and sharp intelligence proved indispensable. She became the reformer czar's quiet harbor amid the storm of state affairs, the one who knew how to listen and restore his strength. After Peter's death came what no aristocrat could have anticipated. Catherine, former washerwoman, became empress. This moment forever altered perceptions of power in Russia. The throne no longer belonged exclusively to nobility. It could fall to someone who knew how to win a crowned person's heart and trust. Beside her stood Menshikov, once her lover, formerly a cobbler, Peter's favorite, and essentially master of both army and treasury. Their alliance exemplified how personal and political bonds intertwined in Russia. The common people could scarcely imagine that a woman without title and a man without noble birth would determine the empire's fate. Yet at that moment, they ruled the country. England, love above, crown. In 20th century Britain, a story unfolded that shocked the world. King Edward VIII fell in love, but his chosen one, American Wallace Simpson, violated every convention, divorced with a questionable reputation. Courtiers insisted throne and church would never accept such a marriage. Yet Edward made a choice that seemed impossible. He abdicated for the woman he loved. The monarch of the world's greatest power, an empire on which the sun never set, declared, "I choose her over the throne." The empire gasped, newspapers overflowed with headlines, and the public debated whether this act was betrayal or love's greatest expression. Britain changed kings, and Edward became merely a duke, all because of a woman who wore neither titles nor crowns. Emotion proved stronger than political chains. What seemed like a novel's plot actually happened. England's history changed because one man could not refuse a woman he loved more than power. The pattern. Roxolana's story is no isolated case. Rather, it reveals a striking pattern. France, Russia, England, the Ottoman Empire. Across centuries and borders, the same narrative emerges. A woman in the throne's shadow proves more influential than ministers, generals, and sometimes even the monarch himself. Conclusion: the hidden rulers. The history of mistresses and favorites is not a collection of anecdotes from monarchs' private lives. This is an alternative history of the world, where women from the shadows moved entire eras. Their power bore no crown, yet it was more real than many laws. So what was their secret? Perhaps they possessed what monarchs lacked: the ability to listen, to sense the moment, to remain indispensable when everyone else seemed expendable. Or perhaps the lesson lies elsewhere, that true power never needed a crown, only proximity to whoever wore one. History records the kings, but these women, From harem slave to emperor's consort, from bourgeois daughter to uncrowned queen of France, they wrote the chapters that determined how the world turned. Their names may appear in footnotes, but their influence shaped empires. The throne was visible. The power behind it was not. And that, perhaps, made all the difference. Write in the comments, who ruled more powerfully, the king with the crown or the woman without the title? And remember to subscribe. Ahead lie stories of those whose names textbooks erase. Yet who determined what kind of world we inherited today?